Well, thank you guys. We're really excited to have an opportunity to be here today and loving the theme of lingua franca today and the notion of finding a common language. Bree and I have spent a substantial amount of time together over the last year working on building a common language, and with that, having some fun with this word called boring. So we'd like to take a little bit of time and unpack this one on how boring has become a bit of a common language for us.
But first, so when Andy called us and said, come and speak to a room full of excited strategic marketers, people who embrace creativity, bravery, we were like, yes, we are all in. We can't wait to talk about our amazing platform, our amazing campaign. And he was like, your topic is marketing effectiveness. And we were like, oh, we're gonna kill. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna be on the edge of your seats. But seriously, we actually think that we really jumped at the chance to reframe these words a little bit.
So, hello, I'm Jenn Garbach. I am the CMO for PNC Bank.
I'm Bree Rossetti. I'm a CSO at Arnold. And what our presentation really is about is the shared partnership between agency and client, because embracing marketing effectiveness really unlocks trust between agency and client, and that's what sells great ideas.
Well, to tee this up, I think we have to acknowledge that as we've actually heard from all of our speakers so far, there are all of these tension points that exist, right? We've talked about like the tension between brand and performance. I feel that same tension between marketing effectiveness and creativity. And so we've been unpacking, like, why does that exist? Because as it turns out, like, I don't actually have a job if I don't want to embrace marketing effectiveness and to have those conversations. But it can feel like that operates in tension with creativity and how we want to build some of those bold breakthrough new ideas.
And as an industry, we've kind of done this to ourselves, right? We put effectiveness into this tight little box. It lives at the end of a process. Sometimes it's 4 steps, sometimes it's 5, sometimes we get freaky and it's like a 7-stage process. Sometimes we do this thing where we like draw a line and we're like, but it's a virtuous loop, don't worry. It's happening all the time. We put it on the left side of the brain, which puts it distinctly at odds with right brain pursuits. So we literally say it's the opposite. And then we even do this thing, right? We put it in these departments with these like fancy titles. I don't know about you, but I've been in rooms where I feel like ill-equipped to even draw my own conclusions because I'm like, wait, we don't have the data scientist here. I can't possibly say a thing. So it's no wonder that it can feel like downright intimidating. But this thing that we're doing is completely at odds with what we need to do and the way that we need to broker that trust between agency and client.
And so what we are here to declare is that marketing effectiveness is in no way simply a set of rote KPIs. This is not about measuring top to bottom funnel metrics. It is absolutely not a compromise on the ability to be creative, and it is not just purely a numbers-driven pursuit. What it is a muscle. And I would say it's a power play that we could totally embrace, that when we focus on the right problem that we are trying to answer, to go after, to solve, we use marketing effectiveness to allow creativity to actually be a business lever, a growth driver, and to bridge one of those key tension points that we experience.
So, we're gonna see what happens here. We're supposed to have a video.
Later.
Oh, okay. So, marketing effectiveness, right? Uninvited, maybe, intimidating, unwanted. What does good look like? What's supposed to happen is I'm supposed to play a Dr. Rick ad for you here that doesn't seem like it's gonna play, so I'm gonna go with it. The reality is Dr. Rick, who you might be familiar with, he's a fictitious but beloved parental life coach who teaches folks to not become their parents. Dr. Rick is one of the most successful campaigns for Progressive Insurance. It's going on its 7th year of deploying Dr. Rick in all new spaces and places. If you saw him this year, he was at airports near you telling you how to not clap when your plane lands and you're landing at the Olympics. But why does it work? It works for the brand, it works for the business. The reason it works is because it's enduring and it's expansive. When an idea is embraced by an organization because they believe it is effective, it has an endless runway. And that's what we want. It does unlock that trust between agency and client. But you might say to me, you know what, Progressive Insurance, it's like a little bit of a unicorn. Don't they spend like billions of dollars? And isn't insurance a category that really embraces celebrity and comedy and advertising? Yes, 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 those are true. But we are here to show you that that muscle that we can develop, it's not exclusive to a particular category. It's something that we're doing, I think, wildly successfully on PNC, and we're going to tell you more about that.
It's for banks too. The client perspective. So what does it feel like? And I want to go back to, Elizabeth, some of the things you were sharing earlier on of what it feels like to be in the day-to-day conversations. So my title is Chief Marketing Officer, like officially, but what I feel like on a day-to-day basis is Chief Marketing Translator, where I can turn to Bree and have one conversation and then immediately turn to the side to my business partners and be like, none of the words that I just said to Bree are the words that I am going to use as I am engaging with my business partners. And I am constantly translating. And how many times have we had that conversation of like,
a lot.
Let's do it again, but with no brand words. Like no saying platform, no saying brand, no saying breakthrough, and doing that. And
It's like reverse Mad Libs.
it is. It's wearing two hats at the same time always. But maybe some of you can resonate with this feeling of like, has it ever felt like you've been in those conversations with your clients, with your partners, and creative feels like a dirty word? And it's because I feel like that's that tension of not having the common language of creative in service of what. And the thing I fear the most is it feeling like, oh, it's just the shiny object, the beautiful creative imagery, and then marketing is just hand wavy, right? It's not actually like an art blended with a science. And so the reframe that we've really focused on is positioning marketing as growth agents and embracing that we have to take the organization through the transformation journey with us. And it's our job to create that common language and play the work that we are doing that we believe in so strongly in the language of the business so that they can see themselves in it and we can actually buy organizational enrollment. And the key to that for us at PNC Bank has been having amazing strategic partners who are willing to go on that journey with us and do the hard work of saying, we're going to have one conversation in the four walls of the agency and marketing team together, and then we're all going to hold hands and tell the same story, but in a completely different language to our business partners when we go engage with the executive committee. What's that been like on your side, Bree?
It's been great. It's been great, Jenn. The agency perspective, you know, this won't be surprising to a lot of you, but one of the things that I love about being agency side, besides having great clients, is we're all about like opening up possibilities, right? Where clients might see downside because of their business partners, we only see potential. Sometimes I hear clients, you know, nicely asking or even demanding in the face of inconclusive data, why? And I hear our team saying, well, why not, right? But that like orientation that's almost antithetical, that's like antagonistic, that's a real problem for us because it makes us feel like marketing effectiveness is a necessary evil. It feels like this gauntlet we have to cross, or maybe a checkbox that we just have to get through, put that line at that like little virtuous circle on our process and call it a day. But that's not what we want, because as planners, as strategists, like we have one core mission, eyes on the prize. We have to inspire our creatives, great creativity, an unrelenting focus on the end process. But the reality is, if we do not embrace marketing effectiveness, then we will never overcome the organizational barriers to selling great ideas, ideas that are enduring, ideas that are expansive. So yes, we have to be forensic investigators, translators, we have to be storytellers, but not just on behalf of our audience. We have to do that and be students of our clients' business as well. So let's talk about a path forward where clients and agencies are in lockstep, where, as we say at Arnold, our bravest ideas and our smartest ideas are the same ideas. When Jenn and I met a year ago, we realized we had a pretty big hill to climb. We had big ambitions. We had a 160-year-old bank and a lot of bankers, and we needed to convince them that marketing could be a driver of growth, to embrace the value of brand. We had to break through in a really crowded category that was chock full of tropes. And then after talking, we heard, well, you've got about 6 months of runway max to make this happen. And we were like, cool, that's great, okay, yeah, no problem. So instead of diving off a cliff like head first into ideation, which honestly was kind of my instinct and desire, we did the opposite. We went on a crazy listening tour. We spent months enrolling and talking to all of the senior execs at PNC, and it was really illuminating. Like we talked about DDAs, direct deposit accounts for hours, the dynamics of institutional banking, what a branch footprint looked like. And you could think, like on the agency side, like we're burning calories, we're wasting our time here. But the reality is, by being great listeners, we earned their trust. And we absorbed the language of banking. And we also really got to know PNC, and it was really fascinating because this one word kind of started haunting us. And it was a word that was like, oh, it's making us uncomfortable, it terrifies the organization, it's super loaded. But that word has really underpinned the most effective marketing effort that PNC has undertaken, and that word is boring. And hopefully this time the video plays.
You know what's brilliant? Boring. Think about it. Boring is the unsung catalyst for bold. What straps bold to a rocket and hurls it into space? Boring does. Boring is the jumping off point for all the unboring things we do. Boring makes vacations happen. Early retirement's possible, and startups start up because it's smart, dependable, and steady. All the words you want from your bank. Taking chances for skateboarding and gas station sushi. Not banking. That's why PNC Bank strives to be boring with your money. Pragmatic, calculated condos. Boring. Boring. Those golf, right? It's simple, really. For nearly 160 years, PNC Bank has had one goal: to be brilliantly boring with your money, so you can be happily fulfilled with your life. Which is pretty unboring if you think about it. Thank you, Warren.
So totally logical how we landed on boring. But it started with that deep listening tour. It started with, frankly, applying all of the things we do as marketers and strategists to ourselves. Finding that core insight, finding that core truth, and then realizing we needed to go on the internal campaign of telling the story in the language that the business needed to hear it to come along for the ride. And that meant banning the 7 dirty words of brand and marketing and starting with, what are we trying to accomplish? We don't talk about brand purpose. That's not because we don't believe in purpose, it's because that language doesn't resonate. We talk about the business ambition. The way our CEO talks on earnings calls about what are we trying to grow and accomplish together as a business. Let's put that at the center of the bullseye. What is the role of the brand to drive that business ambition? Well, we've got 4 jobs to be done. We need to do something that makes us competitively edged. We talked about the sea of sameness that exists out in the marketplace and the opportunity to break through and not be one of the standard financial services tropes. We need to play back and be customer-led and reflect the audience that we're trying to connect with. We need to be creatively potent, and we can point to examples where our partners have credibility in doing that across other industries. And then we need to be credible for PNC. And this one was so important on that journey of enrollment because it was take us a couple clicks out of what's possible, but not so far that we can't see ourselves in it culturally. And this became the framework. And through a painstaking process of socialization and storytelling and letting every member of the executive committee see themselves and their business and what's in it for them, we went from a place of, holy crap, you want to do what with boring? To everybody on stage at our town hall wearing their brilliantly boring t-shirts and evangelizing that this is how we're going to talk about ourselves going forward. And then we punctuated with data. So this is one where we made the commitment from the start of we are not going to be hand-wavy marketers that just say, trust us. We are making the commitment to measurement and marketing effectiveness and the things that we know to be true in the short and long term, and use that as an opportunity to educate as well as allow folks to buy in, and then played back every single time we have something we can measure. We play that back to the organization to say, look, we're holding that commitment, and how does that feel different than before?
I think that's so important when we talk about language. So often we redefine words. We're like human thesauruses. We're like, oh, but we can say it this way, and we can say it this way. And it's what leads to those 7 dirty words having 70,000 different definitions. But we were really disciplined and rigorous. And we were like, no, say the same thing, say it again. And I can't underscore how important that was. We thought it'd be useful to also share some of the like specific tools that we created to enroll the organization, because it was no small task. You know, we were showing up to these meetings with like CEOs and C-suite executives and, you know, rooms of 30 people, and we couldn't just show up and be like, look, trust us, it's gonna be great. But we also didn't show up with like Excel spreadsheets or really complicated models. So three things that really worked for us. One was walk the wall. This was like a Herculean effort by our team to literally gather every piece of communication from our competitors and from ourselves, print them out, and put them for months at a time in the wall, in a room at PNC. And we created a talk track, we created a video fly-through for people who were remote, and we walked them through every single piece of communication. And it was so incredibly illuminating to see what was out there in the world from PNC and what was out there. We talk about a sea of sameness. Like, I think so often we talk around the work, but we don't actually watch it or look at it. We also created a brand book, and like, this is not your typical brand book. You know, we had this creative on our team who did this not because he was asked, but it was like an act of love, an act of passion. This wasn't a brand book. There was like no mention of kerning, no mention of font. It was like a love letter to boring, right? Like Evel Knievel's in there. There's just like an ode to vanilla ice cream. It was just like the most inspiring thing, and it was like completely unprompted, and we shipped it to Jenn and her team when we actually presented the idea, and they had it physically in their hands, and it was just like, it was something that it was bursting from us. We couldn't stop doing it. We ended up handing out 60,000 of them to PNC employees. And as Jenn said, the internal launch, like I can't underscore this enough as far as the organizational buy-in, truly from the top down. When we presented Brilliantly Boring to Bill Demchak, the CEO, we were prepared with Jenn, with, you know, all of sort of his DRG. We had other ideas. We were like, oh, who knows how this is going to go? And we had like reams of data. We had like 7 slides, and then we had an appendix that was like 700 slides. And we were like, we're definitely going to be presenting that. Everybody batten down the hatches. And at Arnold, we had like a Christmas party to go to. And we were like, we're going to be late. And the whole office is like watching us in this room. In like 15 minutes, he was like, I get it. Yeah, I get it. We should print the t-shirt. Can we make a t-shirt? And we were like, haha. And he's like, no, really, make the t-shirt. And then we finished like early. We got to our party. We celebrated. And a couple weeks later, he was standing on stage with that t-shirt saying, this is us. And like, that truly is organizational buy-in. That truly is trust between agency and client.
And I would just say, this is show me, show me, show me. Show me the opportunity for us as a business. Show me what it could look like. Show me top down that this organization is committed and ready to go do it. And I think that is what was additively a big part of the early rollout success for us.
And I will say, you know, the things that you might have thought this marketing effectiveness presentation would be about, things like measurement and modeling, like those are part of our toolkit. But they're not something that we're doing in response. It's not a like get out of our face. It's not a deflection effort. It's actually something that we've gone through, and we've gone on a journey to talk to executives about, to actually audit and understand the currency of the business, the language of the business. Think about how we can educate and enroll leadership and be candid about where we have gaps and where we're making leaps or where we're making assumptions. And also really talk to them about the short and the long term. Again, I believe so strongly that great ideas that are embraced by the organization are enduring and expansive, and Brilliantly Boring is absolutely that. So we can talk to the business about measurement, about effectiveness, about what's going to happen over a very long period of time. And our timer tells us that we are very close to done, but we are almost perfectly on time, I'd like you to know. So we wanted to leave you with a couple thoughts. And that's, we think that we need to do this from to. You guys are all planners, so this is our classic thing, right? We need to move from marketing as an expense to marketing as a true investment, agency as a vendor, and agency as a strategic business partner, and our outputs as executions, as our outputs as these mission critical business driving ideas. I think we need to like take ownership of that and embrace that and have that confidence. That's what we got.
That was not boring. Jenn, a question for you. Thinking about the relationship with the CFO, how do you build that common language in order to secure the funding necessary in such a crowded category?
I love that. I was just telling the team about my catch up on Friday with the CFO dialing for dollars in the 25 budget. It's my mission. Like, I've seen all the videos from Cannes and elsewhere, and saw the McDonald's global CMO and CFO, and I literally like sent him the video, and I was like, this is us. Like, this is my dream for us, is that we are telling this story together. And it's also just embracing the starting point, which is I don't know that I understand everything you're doing, and I don't know that I believe all of the same things. And so it's having a really open, honest dialogue, and I feel the need to challenge myself constantly to also not be defensive. I'm not there to like defend, I'm there to advocate for the work that we are doing, and then listen for the questions, which are very reasonable. It's the CFO is sitting there stack ranking all the many people who are showing up in his office this time of year saying, it's 10 million here, it's 20 million there. And like he just sees, the thermometer going up of spend. And so how do I make the best possible case that, again, that our investment in marketing is exactly that. It's an investment. It's not hand-wavy. And here's the balance, and here we're thinking about it and being very tight in that articulation of the short and long-term value, what we know, what we don't know, and then just trying to be open to, we're not there yet where we're fully in lockstep with our lingua franca, but the fact that we had Friday's conversation is a massive step forward from where we've been historically, where I just get handed like a budget and you're like, oh, like here's what you've got to work with versus the advocacy. So I think that's like the constant dialogue and working our way forward and progressing that.
I'm supposed to cut you off now, but a question came in that I want to ask, and that is, Bree, talk a little bit, just a little bit, about the truths that were uncovered that made you feel confident that boring would be unboring.
Just a little bit, okay. Honestly, this was like, I think you build brands from different places. Sometimes you start in culture, you start with an audience. This was like very an inside out. And I think the time that we spent with everyone at PNC was so well spent. Marissa on my team and I were talking one day, and she was like, and we'd done all of these interviews, and we were going through transcripts, we were loading it into ChatGPT, and we were just like generally getting this feeling. And we were like, they really need some like main character energy, And it just became so clear that people were like sort of hiding this idea that they were boring, but they were secretly really proud of their culture. And honestly, when we looked at culture at large and we looked at sort of like the place that we're living in, and we looked at remakes of things, and we looked at like taking this word and turning it on its head, we knew that was a huge ambition for a relatively small spending bank. But we felt like that was a worthy ambition and one that was credible for PNC.
And I think we knew from that round one creative review, like that's the one I could tell you, I remember viscerally the conference room where I was sitting when the team shared the brilliantly boring concept. You had the moment in the room where we were like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. How do we go after this? Like, how do we at least give this a chance to be considered? And I think we knew from the response in the room that we all felt really strongly about that opportunity.
Yeah.
That is a great feeling. Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.